Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you to start April. I've never been so happy to start a month. Not just because it's my birth month and my birthday is tomorrow, which I don't even want to talk about how fucking old I am at this point, but March comes to a close, being the worst month of my entire career doing this, if you want to call it a career. 18 years. It feels like it shouldn't even be a career anymore. I should probably just go kill myself and jump off a bridge or something. A 1 in 5 day yesterday to finish the fucking month. I mean, I don't even know what I could do, man, other than try to narrow my focus down. But I don't even think some of those plays were bad. You're the Wild as an underdog take that game into overtime, so they were in the game. I mean, that's what you want with an underdog. It was a statistically close game that went into overtime. We lost the under on the Giants and Astros game in the top of the ninth inning. It went in Giants up 5-2, and they scored two unnecessary runs in the top of the ninth to put that one over. The under in the Mariners game was dead immediately because Emerson Hancock, I don't know, he won't take his hand off his cock, I guess. Something is going on with that guy. He gives up 6 runs in the first inning. Way to go there. Basically, the under's dead right out of the gate, so that's fucking fun. One on the Chicago Cubs. That was the only win. An easy blowout Chicago Cubs winner. They won on the first 5 for me. They won full game as well if you had that. And that was the only one. And then the Orlando Magic ended my nice NBA streak that I had going on. And they were in that game for most of the game. It was a low-scoring game, which is what you want when you have an underdog like that at home. And they fell short. Probably came down to some intentional fouls at the end. I don't know. I didn't see it, but they were within 1 or 2 possessions pretty late in that game, winning the game at some point in the second half, I'm pretty sure. So that's all great. And then Texas Rangers, Kumar Rocker, excuse me. He's not John Rocker. He's Kumar Rocker. I don't know what that guy was doing, giving up a ton of runs right out of the gate as well, just ending the bet immediately. At least you know it's a loser at that point. But I don't know. I guess the diarrhea ball wasn't working there that time for him. And then I had another. I think I had another blowout loss as well in the MLB. Maybe I didn't. What else did I even have? I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's move on to today, where I do have one play in the NIT in college basketball. I have a bunch of baseball plays as usual. 5 baseball plays. I'm now below 500 in baseball. My volume has been huge in baseball, and I have an NBA play that probably I shouldn't even play. Let's get right into it. Let's look at the NIT. North Texas and UC Irvine. I'm going to jump on this game right away. I'm going to play North Texas on the money line. By the way, the NIT, we're in the semifinals now. We're no longer in Madison Square Garden. We're at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is Butler's home arena, and it is also where Hoosiers takes place in the final in that movie. North Texas is against UC Irvine. North Texas down from 2 to 1.5 with juice. It looks like it's coming back up, though. So I'm playing the money line in this range. But if it gets above 2, then I would say lay the points. But you're getting in dangerous territory a little bit, laying points with a North Texas team that likes to play really slow and likes to play defense. 55% of tickets, 73% of the cash coming in on North Texas. I think North Texas has multiple advantages here. UC Irvine has played the entirety of the NIT so far in their home arena, which is on the Pacific Coast, and now they're coming east to Indianapolis for this. So this is the first time they're playing a road game in the tournament. Well, not a road game, but a non-home game, I should say. So that's a little bit more difficult. So North Texas actually has a little bit of an advantage in that regard because they did just play a game on the road at Oklahoma State, a close game against a not great Oklahoma State team. You kind of expect it to be close with North Texas playing, but I think that kind of battle tests them as they have they have a road win there. In that game, they were winning almost the entire game. They pretty much had control of the game. They slowed the game way down. Oklahoma State tries to speed it up. They were not able to do that at all. So that was a North Texas style of game, and they were able to still get the job done there. So I think that battle tested them. It was a road game. It was a close win. So I like that for North Texas. And the other thing about this is people are going to look at this and say, wait a minute, North Texas got eliminated from their conference tournament by losing to UAB by 10 points. Well, wait a minute. Who did UC Irvine just beat? Oh, yeah, they just beat UAB to get into this game here in the NIT. So people are going to look at that and think, well, if UC Irvine beat UAB and UAB beat North Texas, and you're basically giving me a not only a pick the winner, but you're giving me points on UC Irvine, then I got to take UC Irvine, right? I think that would kind of be the public sentiment here as you see the tickets kind of evenly split, but the actual money coming in on North Texas, obviously I think that's not the way to look at it. That's that like transitive style of handicapping. It doesn't work that way. Every game is an individual situation. I know KenPom has UC Irvine as the slightly better of these two teams. The odds makers are telling you they're the slightly worse. Either way, it's a pick the winner situation. Like I said, I'll be on the money line. UC Irvine plays good defense. They're actually better defensively as far as KenPom is concerned than North Texas. North Texas is still good defensively, but they're also better offensively than UC Irvine, offensive efficiency-wise. So North Texas is actually the more balanced team. UC Irvine is almost like a mini St. John's, as they're kind of lopsided, as they have a really efficient defense, not a very good offense, and they play faster. And I think North Texas is going to be able to slow this game down because they tend to be able to do that. It's easier to slow the game down, and that would throw UC Irvine out of their style of game as well. So for all those reasons, North Texas is the play there. I like that one. And then the other semifinal is Chattanooga against Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago up from 2 to 2.5. 71% of tickets, 80% of the cash coming in on Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago probably will travel to this game, although Chattanooga is not that far away either, as we're playing in Indianapolis. The money is coming in a little bit on Loyola Chicago. I don't know if I would necessarily disagree with that. Loyola Chicago did play their last NIT game at home after they were out of the Pacific Coast. They came back home and they beat Kent State. So they were able to return to this area of the country and get a win. So that's probably good for them. But Chattanooga did just win a road game. So both teams have won road games in this tournament. So they're both a little bit battle-tested in that regard. They've both played 2 out of the last 3 games on the road. Chattanooga was just at Bradley, so they were in this area of the country as well. Bradley actually being in Illinois, so they played in Illinois and got that win. So no real lean on this one, although, like I said, the money is coming in a little bit on Loyola. And I probably agree with the under in the North Texas game because I do think they're going to slow the game down. Total all the way down from 130 to 128, though, with the money coming in the under, 90% of the cash, 60% of tickets. This game, the total's gone way up from 144.5 to 148, but 82% of tickets on the over and 52% of the cash on the over. So I might lean to the under in both games. I mean, you are looking at a situation where all the teams are having to go to a venue that they're not as familiar with, although it's Hinkle Fieldhouse, so even though the sight lines will be different, it is still a college basketball arena, but it is weird as the sides of the arena go way up and it looks like an airplane hangar. So the teams might have to get used to shooting there. That might really affect Chattanooga, actually, as they like to speed the game up more than Loyola Chicago does, I believe. And Chattanooga plays offense. Loyola Chicago plays defense. So in a semifinal like this, you might lean to the defense. And then we do have the college basketball crown, which, by the way, I forgot to mention. You got to look at who's playing and who isn't. Like last night, Utah actually has been without their coach for a while now. You got players entering the transfer portal. So the reason why the Arizona State line was as big as it was on Nebraska was because Arizona State had a couple of transfers. I still thought they were probably good to cover that one. They did not. This is why I don't want to touch the CBC, man, because you don't even know who's playing. It's like the college football bowls of college basketball. It's ridiculous. DePaul is playing Cincinnati. Again, all these games are in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand, where there is no more live tiger, by the way. Was it a tiger or was it a lion? Tiger, right? I think it was, I don't even remember. Maybe it was a lion. I don't fucking remember. I never saw it. I was there after the thing was gone. Cincinnati up from 8 to 9.5, so some significant money has come in driving that number up, I think, on Cincinnati, but now they're looking like they have 88% of tickets and only 69% of the cash, so maybe some money coming back on DePaul. 9.5 with juice, by the way. DePaul, I think, overperformed in the Big East tournament. They beat Georgetown multiple times in a row, basically between the regular season and the postseason, so, I mean, I don't know what you could take away from that. Maybe they just have Georgetown's number. Cincinnati at least played in this area of the country during the season, having to go out to like BYU and whatever. I don't think they did well out there, though. So take from all that what you will. I'm not going to be playing this game. Oregon State and Central Florida. Central Florida from 1 to 5.5. So I think there's got to be some personnel issue going on here where Oregon State must have some guys that are no longer playing for them or something. because that line should not have moved like that otherwise. 59% of tickets, 80% of the cash coming in Central Florida. Whatever it is, it could be a bit of an overreaction. You might be getting value on Oregon State. Last we saw Oregon State, they lost to Pepperdine in the WCC. So Oregon State, I think, actually has a couple of advantages here. They have an advantage playing in Las Vegas because they just did in the WCC tournament. So they're used to playing in this city. Central Florida obviously is not, even though I think they did have to go out to BYU this year and whatever. Central Florida, or maybe they didn't, I don't know. But Central Florida, they were not a very good road team this year. So this might be a worse venue for them. So I think whatever the case is, I think they might be laying too many points here. And Oregon State, again, last we saw, they lost to Pepperdine in the WCC tournament, which is a very embarrassing result, losing as double-digit favorites. So I could see reasons to come and grab the points, which looks like a pretty substantial number there, and grabbing those points with Oregon State. Probably I would lean that way. Colorado and Villanova. Villanova down from 4 to 3.5. 71% of tickets, 93% of the cash coming in at Villanova. Colorado played pretty tough against Houston last we saw them in the Big 12 tournament. Location-wise, they might have a little bit of a geographic advantage here. Las Vegas not being that far from Colorado, really. Villanova kind of got blown out by UConn in their last appearance in the Big East tournament. So I don't know what to think about this game. Some of the cash coming in Villanova, not sure I really agree with that. The total has gone way up, which would kind of indicate that either Villanova is missing players or the tempo is expected to be faster than what Villanova really wants it to be, because they really like to slow the game down. Colorado might try to speed it up a bit. And Colorado, having played Houston, is now going to be kind of used to playing that slower speed team, although that game was a while ago now, so who knows. And Tulane against USC. USC up from 6.5 to 8.5 with juice, so that line has moved quite a bit as well. 64% of tickets, 77% of the cash coming in USC. I mean, the one thing you could say about USC is they're certainly the more battle-tested team, with Tulane having played in the AAC, which is not very impressive competition. And they almost upset Memphis in the conference tournament last we saw them, and they got knocked out. USC, though, they almost upset Purdue in theirs, and they got knocked out as double-digit underdogs. So both teams kind of in a similar circumstance there. Nothing for me there. There's going to be nothing for me in hockey either. Sorry, I haven't zoomed in on this, but the hockey slate is pretty big. I mean, my Boston Bruins, what can you say? They're returning home from a road trip. They're facing this Washington team that's off an embarrassing loss to the Sabres, even though Washington pretty much has the top seed, I think, pretty much wrapped up at this point. I think it's a bad spot for the Bruins. You'd have to lay a huge price on the road with Washington, though, which I'm not willing to do. Montreal, Florida. This is a zigzag type of spot where Montreal just won at Florida. Now they're returning home from a road trip, and they get Florida again. Florida may actually be motivated here because Florida is fighting still to try to get, they could still get the 1 seed in their division. So they are still fighting for that. Montreal's still fighting for a wild card spot at all. So Montreal still might have a little bit more motivation. So that's why I don't quite want to play Florida on the zigzag here, even though it is a quick road revenge angle where Florida might have the adjustments to make. And Montreal's returning home from that road trip while Florida's starting a road trip. So there are some situational advantages to Florida there. Still would slightly lean that way, but that's not going to happen for me either. Buffalo, I mean, like I said, they came off that big win over Florida, over Washington, over Washington, and they really have nothing left to play for. But Ottawa's pretty secure in their wild card spot, too, so laying a huge price like this with Ottawa at home, probably not something I want to do. It's not something that I want to do. Let's see. Tampa Bay is in a zigzag spot, sort of. They just beat the Islanders at home. Now they're going on the road, but they're actually starting a road trip this time, where I think the Islanders are actually returning from a road trip. It's only a 2-game trip down to Florida and Carolina, though. So the Islanders did just lose to the Lightning, and the Islanders have more desperation, and they are a home underdog here. So I'd probably lean that way because Tampa's already going to be in the playoffs. The Islanders are trying to fight to even get a wild card right now and in a little bit of revenge. But the line is up from -160 to -166 on Tampa. So maybe not the greatest. I have the wild card standings up here as well, just because I tend to look back and forth. St. Louis is pretty secure in their wild card spot as well, and they're laying a huge price against a Detroit team that's probably in desperation mode as well. Utah seems to be laying a huge price here against Calgary. Both of these teams are fighting to get into the playoffs as well. Both teams kind of in the wild card hunt there. But to me, it seems like Utah's probably laying too much of a price here. They're returning home from a road trip as well. So it seems like it's a little bit of a better spot for Calgary. But then again, Calgary just came off big games against Dallas. And then they played the Oilers tough and then beat the Avs. So they're coming off some big games as well. So I don't want to do anything with that game either. Utah actually up from minus 175 to minus 180, 67% of tickets, 68% of the cash. The money actually is coming in on Utah against Calgary in that tough spot, despite it being a home return for Utah, where I always say tends to be a distracted spot there. So I don't want to deal with that either. And then Winnipeg and the Kings. I mean, Winnipeg, they're pretty secure in their playoff spot now, man. I think there's pretty much no way they're not going to be the number one team now, but they are they're going to win the President's Trophy pretty much, but they're starting a road trip. LA is just sitting there at home having an easy win over the Sharks in their last game, which ended a little bit of a loss streak for them. So I think that momentum might carry for the Kings. So the Kings probably have a little bit more to play for because Winnipeg is just ahead of everyone right now. 90% of tickets, 99% of the cash coming in on the Kings, who are laying a minus 120 price. So probably the way I would lean there. Not going to have a play there. NBA, trying to get this done quick, man. Some of these games are just total garbage, so I just don't really care about a lot of these games. Phoenix and Milwaukee does have playoff implications. Milwaukee is still fighting to try to get a home series in the playoffs. I think they might be fighting to even avoid the play-in at this point. I think they will avoid the play-in, but they are still fighting for a home series. Phoenix is trying to even get into the play-in as they're the odd man looking, they're on the outside looking in right now. They're the odd man out right now. They just lost by almost 40 points to the Rockets, giving up 148. You do that, the best thing for you is to go out on the road, man. So I think Phoenix might refocus at that point, and they're probably in a little bit more of a desperate situation than Milwaukee is, but Milwaukee has lost 4 games in a row, and they gave up over 140 in their last game too, so they're probably going to show up for this game as well, pretty angry, and the money is coming in on the Bucks side, up from 6 to 7. 51% of the cash coming in on them, 82% of the tickets on the Suns, so the market read is actually on the Bucks there, so maybe I would lean that way. Orlando is on a back-to-back as they just lost that tough game last night. They're still fighting to try to, I think, maintain a play-in spot or something, but now they're going out on the road to San Antonio with no time off. Probably a pretty difficult spot, and San Antonio was just at home, just got crushed by the Warriors, losing by 42 points. You lose by that amount to anybody, you're probably going to show up focused in the next game, so I would lean to taking the points with the Spurs. Magic down from 4 to 3.5 with juice, 95% of tickets, 87% of the cash. They're a very public road favorite with no time off there. Golden State at Memphis. Memphis, they're playing on a back-to-back, and they just played the Celtics fairly tough last night and then fell apart late. So they're coming off of that with no time off. And Golden State coming into this game having crushed the Spurs. So both teams, I actually think both teams are not really in the greatest spots here. Both teams are actually still fighting to avoid the play-in right now, as weird as that sounds. West is packed, man. Golden State and Memphis are both trying to avoid the play-ins, so they're both going to be focused in this game. Warriors up from 3.5 to 5.5, but it looks like at that price, some money coming back in on the Grizzlies. 88% of tickets, only 79% of the cash on the Warriors, who look like a public road favorite there. And Memphis, by the way, fired their coach 2 games ago, and they haven't won since they fired him, losing to the Lakers and Boston, though, the Celtics, my Celtics. They've lost to 2 pretty good teams. But usually you want to play on that team when they fire their coach, which I wasn't even aware they had done that. It's kind of a weird spot in the season to do it, but it didn't spark them enough to beat the Lakers. They haven't won since then. The fact that they're this big of an underdog at home makes me think that there's got to be some personnel issues here. It doesn't really look like anything's really going on in the injury report, though, there. So I don't know. But my one play is going to be on the Minnesota T-Wolves. T-Wolves have really had Denver's number, man. They've won all 3 games this season. So you might say, well, doesn't that mean Denver is going to adjust and have, like, not only triple revenge, but Denver has not even gotten revenge for Minnesota eliminating them in that 7-game series from the playoffs last year. Yeah, Denver might have revenge on their mind, but Minnesota really needs to win, man, because they're trying to avoid the play-in. Denver is almost certainly going to get a home series in the playoffs. It's almost going to be impossible for them to drop out of either the 3 or the 4. So Minnesota has a lot more to play for here. So that's why I'm doing this. Denver, just staying at home, kind of on cruise control after beating the Jazz really easily. But again, this is really all about desperation. Denver doesn't really need it. You've got Minnesota as an underdog in a desperate spot here. Minnesota has some momentum as well. They just won at home a couple of games in a row. Now they're taking that out on the road. Starting a road trip tends to be an ultra-focused spot. And when it's Denver, I think it is going to be an ultra-focused spot, even though, yeah, Denver would like revenge. But I think revenge is a little bit overrated when we're talking about the T-Wolves needing this game a lot more as far as the playoff, how the playoffs are going to go in this. I don't know how I want to phrase that, but as far as the playoff motivation is concerned here, I guess is how I should phrase that. Nuggets up from 2.5 to 3.5. 93% of tickets, only 91% of the cash. The Nuggets are very public. I mean, they have Jokic back. He's played a couple of games now. He's looked good. But the T-Wolves, again, they know how to stop him. They've won, I think, 5 games in a row against the Nuggets now. So that's what we got going on there. Or maybe 4 games in a row, whatever it is. So give me Minnesota plus the points. They need the game more. And it looks like the Nuggets are an ultra-public team. Let's try to get through MLB really quick here, man. I'll probably only talk about my plays. Sometimes I'll talk about the other games if they're really big games. Most of the games are just interleague, so who cares? Let's play on the Yankees, minus 112. I actually think we're getting value on the Yankees. We're going to play on some unknown pitchers here. They flipped from a plus 103 dog to a minus 111 favorite. 79% of tickets, but 93% of cash. So I think this is one rare spot where you're actually going to get value on the Yankees. And, of course, you're playing on a Yankees team that is a good team. They're hosting Arizona here. Now, here's the thing, man. Corbin Burns is pitching for Arizona, so everybody's going to look at that and think, well, Corbin Burns, he's an ace. We know him. He's a good pitcher. Who the fuck is Will Warren? Nobody's going to know who that is. So, give me Corbin Burns as an underdog, right? Well, not so fast, because Corbin Burns, obviously, he was in the AL East last year on Baltimore, so the Yankees are certainly familiar with him. Not only that, but he has not done well against the Yankees in his career. He's had 110 at-bats worth against their hitters, and they've hit him to a 309 average worth and an 870 OPS. So he has not done well. And if the Yankees are continuing to cheat with those fucking torpedo bats, using like nuclear weaponry as their bats, I think Corbin Burns might not have the greatest game in this one. I think we want to go on the unknown Will Warren. He is actually a highly touted prospect, man. He actually has decent breaking stuff if you look at his scouting reports, and can throw in the mid to upper 90s basically on the fastball. And we're looking at him, and last year he didn't do well. He had a horrible ERA of above 10. But if you look at his other numbers, his strikeout number was really high. It was just that he was out of control. He had 10 walks. He was really wild, but his Ks per 9 was really high. So I think he's going to get better, man. He is one of their top prospects. And we're looking at, I was looking at the Brewers. The Arizona Diamondbacks, same thing, though. The D-backs have never faced Will Warren before, so you're getting a starting pitcher who has never been seen before by the opposing lineup. So I think we're actually getting value on the Yankees at home as the better team just because of the pitching matchup and because the public's going to want the more known ace pitcher there. But again, this is a lineup that hits Corbin Burns pretty well, and they know him pretty well. So we're going to go with that one. Next up, we're going to go with the Washington Nationals at plus 140 to bounce back from what was going on with them. They lost yesterday. So, by the way, Yankees and Arizona both had yesterday off. So the Yankees are just staying at home, and Arizona is actually traveling from Arizona all the way to New York. So they are starting a road trip, but they are having to travel, man. So the Yankees do have an advantage in that respect as well, just staying at home. Even though sometimes when you go on the road, you do focus, and it is the Yankees, so you probably will be focused, but I like the pitching matchup for the Yankees there. I think we're actually getting value on the unknown quantity. I think kind of a similar thing. That's kind of the theme of these plays today with this Toronto game. These teams did play yesterday. Toronto beat the Nationals. I'm still going to go full game on this. I think the bullpen usage was pretty similar yesterday, even though Soroka left the game early. We had the Blue Jays using one fewer relief pitcher, but they used like all their best relievers almost last night. So I think the bullpen situation is a little bit of a wash there. Blue Jays won yesterday. People are going to look at this and think, oh, Jose Barrios, he's the better pitcher, right, against Trevor Williams. Like, I want Barrios. They're paying a bit of a price for Barrios. Toronto up from minus 150 to minus 152 to minus 160. They're definitely the better team. Obviously, they have the better offense, but I think The pitching can actually mitigate that. 63% of the tickets are on Toronto, but 69% of the cash as it is right now coming in on Washington. I agree with that. Trevor Williams, he actually was good last year. He had a 2.03 ERA and 1.04 whip, so there's nothing to really laugh at there, even though he didn't have a large sample size. I think he flew under the radar. And yeah, I mean, it's weird because he's 32 years old, so he came from out of nowhere. So it's like, is that a mirage? Because the rest of his career hasn't been anywhere near as good. That's true. But what puts me over the edge here is that, well, we're getting a huge underdog price, but Toronto, some of their guys haven't even seen him. Only 5 of their hitters have seen him before, and they only hit him to the tune of 154 for a batting average and a 308 OPS, and he has a 6.0 strikeout walk ratio against him in only 13 at-bats, but he hasn't allowed any extra base hits either or issued any walks. So Williams has actually done pretty well in a limited sample size against Toronto, but that means Toronto's also not that familiar with him. Meanwhile, everyone's familiar with Barrios, and you might say, well, Barrios is going to bounce back because he had a bad start in his opening start. So a lot of times, a pitcher that's good like Barrios, if they have a bad start to open the season, yeah, you do want to look for them to bounce back in the next game, but I'm not sure that he's going to be that focused on this Nationals team, and the Nationals actually hit him pretty well. They have 42 at-bats worth against him, and they've hit him to the tune of a 286 average and 771 OPS. So not like ridiculous numbers from the hitters there, but good enough that I think it makes sense to try to just jump on Washington as the underdog there. Again, you're getting the underdog price there like that. You don't need them to win the game outright every time. Same with the Chicago White Sox. I know, I'm playing the White Sox. Are you serious? Well, they've won 2 games already, and again, you only need these teams to win about 40-something% of the time to profit here. We're going with the White Sox. This is actually a divisional game. Most of these games are interleague. This one is not. Minnesota is actually down already from minus 188 to minus 157, so the line has crashed on Minnesota. Their public was 75% of tickets, but 81% of the cash coming in on them. The public is still on Minnesota just because the White Sox were so historically bad last year. I think we're looking at some regression back to some sort of mean, though. And Minnesota hasn't won a game yet, so I know they're going to start to be in desperation mode. And Chicago actually beat them 9-0 yesterday. Chicago actually has 2 wins on the season. I don't think Chicago is the better team, obviously, but I like the starting pitching matchup here. So, again, it's that situation where you're getting the lesser-known pitcher, and I actually like it. Chicago, I think, is in the better bullpen situation as well. Simeon Woods-Richardson is pitching. He did okay last year, which was kind of his first full season last year. Numbers started slipping late, but maybe it was because he's not used to playing the full season. I played on him a few times last year, but his ERA went up to above 4. His whip was fairly high at 1.29. But the thing is, look at his numbers against the White Sox, man. In 24 at-bats, they've hit him to the tune of a 417 average and a 962 OPS. So even though this White Sox lineup is not good, they've actually crushed Woods-Richardson. So he has not been good. And then you have Shane Smith on the other side for the White Sox. He's a young guy, 24 years old, out of Danvers, Mass, man. Shane Smith. He's listed as a relief pitcher. He's going to start here. The one advantage you got here is, again, he's never been seen before by the opposing hitters. He might be nervous. This is going to be his first major league start. I don't know how long he's going to last in the game, but I like it. I think if you wind up getting a few innings out of him and start the game off right, I think you can get even a bullpen game out of the White Sox. Might be able to get this done if Woods-Richardson gets knocked around a bit in this game. I like this. Shane Smith, he's not the greatest pitcher. He's supposed to be a relief pitcher. He's got a 3-pitch arsenal, which isn't that great for a starter. But, again, he's never been seen before, and he's got decent stuff where you can kind of throw into, I guess, like the mid-90s with his fastball. He's had some control issues, but he does have a I forget what else he throws. Like I think he throws a moving fastball and then one change of speed pitch, but we will see what happens. But again, I like that because, as I always say, pitchers that have never been seen before by the opposing hitters have an advantage because the opposing lineup hasn't seen him before, and they have to like adjust and get used to him. They've never seen that guy in a real game environment before. I'm going to be on the Padres -1 on the run line. You do have to pay -125 for this. I think it's better than laying the -1.5, even though you can get the -1.5 run line at like +130. Something. I like the -1. You lay the extra juice for it. But in this price range, it's almost like you're just playing a money line favorite. It's just that if they win by exactly 1, you'll push which isn't that bad. It's a little bit less risky to do it, but I like it. DraftKings offers the -1 run line. Some other places might as well. I like the Padres here. They're already up from -140 to -169, so I would have laid the -140 run line, money line. Money line if I saw it early, but they do have 76% of tickets, 93% of the cash. Money is coming in San Diego. I think this one is simple. San Diego, I know they've won every game. They won easily yesterday, but I think their bullpen sets up fine for this. But I think the starting pitching matchup is a mismatch. Logan Allen is pitching for Cleveland. He's still a young guy. He might start turning it around, but last year, bad numbers, 5.73 ERA, 1.58 whip. None of that is good. And against the Padres, we have a limited sample size, but in 13 at-bats, so even when the Padres hitters hadn't seen him before, they hit him to the tune of a 308 average and a 1,015 OPS. So his numbers were not good against the Padres. Meanwhile, Michael King is a guy who I do think is going to bounce back. He had a horrific start against the Braves in his first start of the season, and he is obviously not that bad. He's a very good pitcher. Braves have a decent hitting lineup. At least they did until Profar just got suspended for PEDs for 80 games or something. So RIP to the Braves, who haven't even won a game yet. And the guy that they got from the Padres, maybe the Padres knew something, man. I don't know. One of their best hitters just goes out for the season now for the Braves. But Michael King had a bad start for the Braves. A lot of it was his command, 4 walks. I mean, that just wasn't good. He's a good pitcher. He had a good season last year, so I think he's going to have no problem bouncing back. And Cleveland has seen him 32 at-bats worth, and they only have 4 hits off him and 1 extra base hit, 10-2 strikeout walk ratio, 125 average, and a 333 OPS. So King has pretty much dominated these Cleveland Indians hitters there. So we'll go with that, and then we'll finish it out with 1 total, which of course is an under. And I think the public is going to want overs in Dodgers games because the Dodgers have the best offense in Major League Baseball, but they're facing Chris Sale, and I think he can limit what they're going to do. And you see this total is flipped from an 8 juice to the over to an 8 juice to the under. I was able to find it at -115 on the under. 62% of tickets coming in on the over because it's Ohtani. It's the Dodgers. Public wants the offense. But again, it's an early season game, and this is a good pitching matchup, deceivingly good. Even though with 2 good offenses, of course, Atlanta now doesn't have Profar, like I said, so that is a big hit to their offense. He's a big hitter as well. 90% of the cash, however, is on the under. Chris Sale is pitching. He didn't do very well in his first game, but it wasn't that bad of a start. His ERA looks bad as it's over 5, and it was a mediocre start because he gave up 3 earned runs, but he had a 7-1 strikeout walk ratio in 5 innings, so his stuff was on. I mean, that strikeout walk ratio was good, so I think he got a little bit unlucky there. He didn't put that many men on base. 6 hits, maybe a little bit too high, 3 earned runs. I mean, I would say that's not a bad start. So I think Sale is kind of picking up right where he left off last year. He's still not that old, unfortunately, because the Red Sox don't have him anymore. And against the Dodgers, he's been good in 73 at-bats against them, 22-6 strikeout walk ratio, 219 average, 698 OPS. So he's held the Dodgers' really potent offense down. So I think that's going to check their offense. So I like that. And then Dustin May on the other side for the Dodgers. Nobody knows who this guy is. He's a pretty looming presence on the mound. It's 6'6", so he is tall, even though he's not a hefty guy at 180. But his career numbers are pretty good, man. Some of it out of the bullpen, but 3.1 ERA, 1.05 whip. Doesn't really strike guys out, but he does get guys out. Doesn't allow a lot of runs. I mean, he's been pretty consistent throughout his career since 2019, putting up consistent whip and pretty much consistent ERA numbers as well. He's been pretty good. 2 years ago did well. He didn't even pitch last year, so that is the concern. I think he may have been injured or something. And again, with guys like the dude for the White Sox there, Shane, whatever the hell his name is, he did have Tommy John surgery a few years ago, so you do have to worry about some of these guys who are in their mid-20s just starting out that are coming back from injury. But, I mean, it's medical miracles now, man. They can still pitch. May only has 14 at-bats worth against the Braves, so they're not that familiar with him. Has walked too many again. He's got to get that control under wraps. There were 3 walks, but 2 of them were Matt Olson, who was one of their best hitters. 7-3 strikeout walk ratio, but again, 2 walks from Olson. But otherwise, he's held him to a 214 average. 853 OPS is a little bit too high, but I'm going to say that they're not that familiar with him. Half their lineup hasn't seen him before, and his overall numbers are good. So I think we're actually looking at a situation where we're going to get a decent price on the under. That's going to do it for me. Again, North Texas in the NIT money line. Baseball, we got Yankees minus 112, Washington plus 140, White Sox plus 146, Padres minus 1 at minus 125 on the run line. Braves, Dodgers under 8, minus 115, and Minnesota T-Wolves and NBA plus 3.5. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang to support the most offensive podcast. And we'll be with you tomorrow, Wednesday night. Peace.